Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. So, welcome to week 4. This is week 4 of the boot camp. And by the end of this week, there's our second session on Thursday. We should have been done with um, HTML and CSS, anything styling. Yes. So, by next week, we will start with JavaScript and. So, you still stop hearing my voice in a short while. But anyway, so for today's session, we are going to talk about SASS and SCSS, what it is, why it is important to use it, and what it does, and the benefits you get from using it. So the syntax can be quite not so easy to understand. But hopefully by the end of the day, you understand it fully. All right. So let's get started. So I prepared a presentation slide. Let me share the link. I'm coming. Let me share the link. Mm, Okay. So on the dialog box, I'll share the link. You can all open it and you will, continue from there. So the tools we're using today is still VS Code as usual, and they've also been making use of SCSS documentation and the documentation from CSS Suite or them methodology. I'll speak about that further into the class. All right, let me share my screen and then you can get started. Okay. So can you all see my screen? All right, so that's lovely. So here's the link for the um, class, the slides I prepared for this class, and you can open it and we would talk about it together. We would read on it together, basically. So if I come here, so I named it SCSS for beginners, basically. So what is SASS and what is SCSS? Do that. So SASS is that's SASS is for is the full meaning syntactically awesome file shape. It is a CSS reprocessor that extends the capabilities of traditional CSS by providing advanced features such as uh, variables, nesting, functions, mixing, and advanced and control directives. All right. It makes it easy for developers to write cleaner, more efficient, and maintainable style sheets. Okay. So, what does a preprocessor do? Because you know it's big English getting. So, a preprocessor is a program that basically is a program that processes input data or code before it is passed to a compiler or interpreter. Alright. So there are different type of preprocessors, like for example, HTML we see. there's a HTML processor, that is, I think it's HTML, I think that's what it's called. And then for CSS, we have the processors like SASS and less. And then there are also code preprocessors, all right? But today we are going to look at the preprocessor for CSS, which is SASS and SCSS. SASS basically. So that's that. So um so far, is there any question or I should carry on? All right, let me carry on. So basically, SAS offers two syntaxes. There's the SAS. SAS is the indented syntax. It's more concise, indentation-based syntax that removes semicolons and curly braces. We'll be looking at their syntax in a bit for now. Just have that, all right? So SCSS, which is called SASS CSS, basically, I think the full meaning is SASS Cascading Style Sheet. And once again, the full meaning of SASS is syntactically awesome style sheet. So this syntax is an extension of CSS, meaning that any valid CSS is also valid SCSS. It retains the traditional curly braces and semicolons of CSS, making it easy to transition from CSS to SCSS. All right. So a brief origin of SASS. So SASS was created by Hampton Hesslin in 2006 as an early attempt to make CSS more powerful and flexible. The idea behind SASS was to basically provide developers with a more programmatic approach to styling, introducing features such as variables and nesting that were not available in CSS at the time. So right now, I think you can nest in CSS, for example. I think there are some variables to here talk about those rules and stuff. But at the time, yeah, SAS was created, CSS do not have those. Because I think now, I think the most recent version of CSS is CSS 3.0 and do not have that as at 2006 there. So SAS provides this um, programmatic approach because you can even see statements that you find in programming languages. You can see if and else in SAS basically. So the other thing might not be easy to understand, but it is really very, very nice styling tool. All right. So initial reception and adoption. In the beginning, SAS had a unique indented syntax which deviated from traditional CSS. So this caused some resistance from developers who were hesitant to adopt a new format. But however, as CSS grew in complexity and the need for reusable, maintainable styles became more apparent, SAS started gaining traction. Alright. So introduction of SAS, SCSS syntax, that is SAS 3.0. So this was introduced in 2010. So SCSS is the syntax of SAS. You know what syntax is? I think I've explained it earlier. So the turning point for SAS came with the release of SAS 3.0 in 2010, which introduced the SCSS syntax. SCSS was fully compatible with CSS, which made adoption easier for developers familiar with CSS. With SCSS, developers could use all of SASS's powerful features while writing code that looked just like regular CSS. So let me give you an example of it. So this is an example. I don't know if you can see my screen very well. I've decreased this so that you can see this very well. So this is an example of SASS. Okay. So you can see SASS. The syntax for SASS is this is a variable get. You can see body. This is the style for body. So this is a variable. We'll look into variables later, but this is defined. This is you can give. We talked about. I think when I was creating the project for Let's we talked about. It talked a little bit about variables, and we defined variables in the root pseudo class at the top of our style sheet. It was defined there. So I think we had variables for colors. This is just an example. So this is where the variable is defined, I mean written, and this is where it is called basically. So you can see how it looks like. It looks really, what do I call it? It's not really easy to understand, right? So this same code, this is the example in SCSS. So SCSS is a syntax that brought about it looking very much like CSS, okay, but still has the nesting in it. For example, this is the body, all right, and this is also written here. So basically, you can see the body has style of fourth family, um, Arial or sans serif, and then you can see the color as was defined here, primary color. And then you can see nesting going on. For SCSS, for you to start understanding SCSS, you must know how to nest. If you want to understand the physical law, you have that business. It will be easy for you to get. All right. So, um, font family. Uh, you can see Arial sans serif, color is defined. So in the body, you can see where this opening tag is. This is where it's closed for the body. So this is to say that the H1 tag, the H1 element is nested in the body, and then also the P element, that paragraph, is nested in the body element. So it makes it easy for you to read and let's say understand that. All right. So that's that. So you can see a little example of how nesting works basically in this code snippet. So let's move forward, right? Does anybody have any question? All right, no question. I'm sure we are all following because today I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to ask questions today, so please, if you don't understand anything, if you don't understand, tell me. I'll go back to you. Because everybody must write fast by the end of this class. All right. Um. So moving on, I can see our turnout is quite has increased a little bit. So for those just joining in, let me go over what I was talking about again. We are talking about SASS, okay? And I shared in the chat box because a lot of people don't have light. I heard like light situation has been really, really bad, honestly. So I just created a slide so that in case you miss the class or you don't come early, you can just join in with the slide and then we can. I'm just talking about the slide. Yes. All right. So yeah, that's that. So moving on, I mean slide 5. So if you open the slide. So the benefits of using processors, right? What are the benefits of using processors? So the benefits include variables. You can have variables. Variables you can store and reuse the values. There are values that you can store and reuse just as before with this code snippet where primary color was defined. And if you notice, there's this dollar sign before defining a variable. That is the convention in SASS. You get SASS SCSS. That's the convention. All right. And apart from the curly braces, we also saw that there is no semicolons at the end of SASS syntax. So that's why the SCSS syntax was released, because it's easy for you to read and understand this syntax. All right. So some of the benefits of using preprocessors are, number one, as I said, variables. You can store and reuse values like colors and fonts. And then preprocessors also provide nesting benefits where you write more readable and structured styles. All right. And then you also have mixins, which I'll talk about later today. Mixins are blocks of styles across different components. So you can reuse blocks of styles across different components. And then you also have functions. So functions can perform calculations or manipulate styles dynamically. All right, so that's basically what functions are. We'll still talk about that. And then there are partials and imports. So partials and imports help you to organize styles into multiple files for maintainability, basically. So by using preprocessors, developers can write more manageable, scalable, and modular code while still outputting standard CSS. When we start writing SCSS, I'll give you an example of what I mean when I say you can still output standard CSS, all right? So why SCSS became more popular? SCSS became more popular than the original SASS, which is the indented syntax, due to its compatibility and easier transition for developers. So if you notice, the syntax once again has this CSS type stuff going on. It has curly braces, can have values, and you get, it looks like CSS basically. So SCSS retains the traditional CSS syntax, such as curly braces, semicolons, and selectors. So this means that any valid CSS file is also a valid SCSS file. Developers familiar with CSS can start using SCSS without needing to learn a new syntax. So know how to write CSS, once you know how to write CSS, you can start using SCSS. Once you just understand nesting, basically, once you understand the concept of how nesting works, you can start writing SCSS once you are familiar with CSS. So it's not a new syntax and it's easy to learn that way. All right. So, yeah, my okay. So, early adoption. The similarity to CSS made SCSS easy for developers transitioning from CSS to preprocessor. They could gradually adopt SCSS features like variables, nesting, and mixins while still writing valid CSS. SASS, which is the indented syntax, required learning a new format which could slow adoption. All right. So adoption is the should I say the way people start using the language, the way developers start using the language. Is this slow? Is it fast adoption and stuff like that? You get. So there's also wider tooling support. The SCSS syntax has broad support in modern web development tools, such as build tools like Webpack and Go. This ensures seamless integration into existing workflows. All right. So you also have flexibility. SCSS provides all the features of SASS, but with more flexibility, since it allows developers to choose between writing plain CSS and advanced CSS features. All right. So far, is there any question before I continue? Are we all clear? All right, Jethro, what's your question?
Good evening, ma.
Good evening,
Um,
Jethro.
so from your explanation, I can be able to depict that there is a little difference between this SASS and SCSS in their
Yes.
usage and in their compatibility, right? And then
Okay,
one
the
other thing,
usage is the same
yeah,
thing. It's the same
okay,
thing. Yes.
okay, their usage are the same.
Yes, it's the same usage.
Okay, what is that pre-processor, please? I heard you make mention of pre-processor, and then is it a compiler? So if you
Yeah.
can just explain a bit what they mean, I'll
Okay.
appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again, Jethro. Thank you very, very much for your question. All right. So a preprocessor, as I mentioned, is a program. Basically, let's use the word program that processes code before it is passed to a compiler or an interpreter. So if we start writing SCSS, I think I don't want to go into this for now. But if you start writing SCSS, right, you will see that once you create your SCSS file, a CSS would also be created under. So anything you write in your SCSS, if you go to your CSS file, you can see the file structure. So it's just, let me say, CSS with shorter line of code, basically. So that's what it is basically. I talked about other preprocessors. There's one for HTML. I think the most popular one is HTML. I think there are other preprocessors too for CSS. There's less too, but the most popular one with better community you get is just SCSS. So that's what we'll be talking about today. All right. So Jethro, do you understand, or I should still, explain for that?
It's cool, man. It's cool. I understand.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I said, they have the same what was the word you used again? They perform the same function. For example, this if you run this and you run this, it will give you the same output. The difference is just that this is more readable and this syntax is not so readable. All right. For example, now this is like basic CSS, like you get, but this one is difficult to read and understand. You get my point, right? So moving forward, I created this table to show the difference between Tailwind CSS and SCSS. All right. But we did Tailwind last week and we want this week. We are going into SASS, right? So I want to mention again that it is not compulsory for you to actually use Tailwind CSS. You can write vanilla CSS, which is like basic CSS. You can write your style sheet anyway. Like we're just teaching you all this so you can do what option works best, should I say, for you. But when you start writing React and stuff, like Tailwind is widely adopted for writing React and Next.js basically. But what is the difference between Tailwind CSS and SCSS? Like for me personally, I personally prefer SCSS. Yeah. So what's the difference? So we'll start with purpose, right? So Tailwind is a utility first CSS framework. I talked about how I talked about the utilities that uh, Tailwind provided. We saw that last week. So it's a utility first CSS framework. While SCSS purpose is a CSS preprocessor that extends CSS capabilities. Like CSS can do more. Like it's like CSS on steroids. Like if you get like CSS can do more with SCSS basically. You get. I told you how the syntax is like program like. You can even see if and else statement if you're familiar with programming languages in SCSS. And it's styling. It's not code. Like it's not like you get. It is still styling, but you can see stuff like that going on. All right. As I said, it's like CSS on steroids. Okay. So the syntax. Tailwind uses utility classes directly in HTML markup. Just as we had seen in the last class, what do they call it? Utility classes are written in the HTML like inline style. Yes. Tailwind uses this inline style of writing styles basically. So you write it in your HTML too. Okay. Why some people prefer it that way, I personally don't like that. That is the main reason why I was like, I don't like Tailwind like that. The fact that it's in your HTML is just what I don't like. But you get utility classes are written directly in the HTML markup as an inline style. While SCSS uses SCSS syntax, for example, variables, nesting, etc. in CSS file. Okay, so the extension, if you're creating a CSS file, SCSS file rather, while creating CSS, you write .css. For HTML, you write .html, basically, all right? So, design approach. Tailwind encourages atomic design, which is small, reusable utility classes for each style. While SCSS encourages separation of concerns. For example, styles are written in SCSS files and HTML is written in .html files. For customization, highly customizable with Tailwind's configuration style. That's for Tailwind. And then for SCSS, it requires defining custom styles through SCSS features like variables and mixins. Get right? So the learning curve for Tailwind is simple to start with, as developers will just need to add utility classes in the HTML. While for SCSS, it is kind of more complex, which requires knowledge of SCSS features like variables, mixins, and nesting. Like these are basic, actually there are some basic features of SCSS like variables, mixins, and nesting. You are good to go with SCSS, right? It's kind of more complex, but then once you understand it basically. All right. So the use cases. For Tailwind, it is best for rapid prototyping and small to medium projects that need consistent design. You get. As for SCSS, SCSS is best for large-scale applications that requires well-structured and maintainable style sheets. SCSS is best for that. All right. And then development workflow. Styling happens mostly in the HTML, which makes it faster to build UIs. You get, like, most of the utilities are already predefined basically, and most of the styling happens in the HTML. So you just write your stuff and get going. But then for SCSS, styling happens separately in SCSS files, which requires manual class creations and stuff like that. Okay, so that's basically. So now I'm on slide 7. Let me see. Is there anybody newly joining us? All right. So is there any questions so far? So far, is there any question? All right, no question. So moving on, once again, the slide I'm using today is, let me just pin it, is on the dialog box. So you can check out the slide while I talk about it. So we can do this together, basically. All right. So moving on. So basic SASS features overview. So basically we have variable, some of the features we have are variables, nesting, partials and imports, mixins and functions, and extends and inheritance. So by using SCSS features like variables, nesting, partials, mixins, functions, extend, inheritance, you can significantly enhance your CSS workflow. These features not only make your style sheet cleaner and easier to maintain, but it also empowers you to build more dynamic and flexible design. So moving on, um, the first one we have is variables. Okay, for this, so that we can get hands-on with this, let's create a new folder. So let's create a new project. So guys, create a new project and then we'll get started. So create a new project, and in that project, just uh, just create your index.html file. So let me open mine. So just create an index.html and then we'll get started. So I'll give few minutes for that. I'll give few minutes for you to get your workspace ready and then we'll start. All right. So just create your new folder and with an index.html file, and then we can get started together. Okay. So guys, are we done creating the folder? Is everybody done? I want to make sure everybody's done. Okay, I'm seeing hands going up. So if anybody is not done, can you please signify? All right, so everybody's done. So yeah, let's get started. If we go back to our file, so we are going to download an extension for today. So the name of the extension is SASS Live. Okay, wait. Live SASS compiler, not SASS Live compiler. Live SASS compiler. I don't know if you can see it. So please just download the extension. So once you are done, once it's done installing, let's say we start 348, by then it should have been done installing so that we can start. All right. So is everybody done installing their live SASS compiler? Okay, everybody's done. All right. Rufai, I'm not seeing your hand going up today. Hope all is well. Did you answer me? All right, then let's start. Okay, so we'll create a new file basically, so we can start to name our file styles.scss. So if you are done installing live SASS compiler and you click enter, right? Okay. So let's try and write some SCSS styles and see what I mean by reprocessing and stuff like that. So if I come here, so let's talk about variables for example, right? So variables in SCSS allow you to store reusable values such as colors, fonts, or dimensions, making your style sheet more maintainable. All right. So here, primary color and font stack are defined at the top and used throughout the style sheet. And if you need to update the primary color, you only change it in one place. So let's see what's an example of what I'm talking about. So to define your variables, you start with a dollar sign, just like we saw here. You start with a dollar sign. Let me create a little something in our style. So let's say HTML5. Then we just leave the title like that. And then link here. Let's not link this yet. Okay, so we have body, and then in our body we have a button, and then the button is called click me. The button is click me basically. All right. So now we want to define our primary color. So variables, you can use any name for it basically. You can use any name for it. So let's call color. You can say main color, like whatever you want to, write. Just like we had in our roots for normal CSS, So we can use what the color is here, 349. So I use 349. Okay. As the main color. And then for fonts, you can say fonts. This is just defining the variables, like we've not used them yet. I'll say fonts main, For example, can call it whatever we like. Can say sans serif. All right. So, okay, it's not in double quotation. Sorry. So you can say sans serif. We want the main font to be sans serif. All right. So now, let me see. For our body, to show how what do they call it? To show how variables work in our body, we can say we want the background color. So I'm writing background color 3498BD. Imagine we're supposed to like repeat this over and over and over again. Just like when we were writing CSS where we use var and then we had the whatever was called in our root. So for this one, you just dollar, and once you write the dollar, you can already see the suggestions to just write main color. If you're going to reuse this over and over again, it helps with reusability. You get, yes. Imagine you're writing 1,000 lines of instead of going back to, oh, let's say you want to use the font, the background color again. Instead of going back to say, oh, what did I even use for my color again? Or like, you get, it helps with reusability and stuff. So that's basically what variables, do. All right. Right here on the body, you also want font family to be uh font name get, right? So you can store a lot of things. Anything you want to reuse, you can just name it whatever I don't know you want to call it, basically. Whatever you want to call it, you can even store you can store complex styles in variables, whatever works. So for our button, you can say button let's go back. So you can say background color. We want it to still be main color, right? And then padding of 10 pixels, 10 pixels, for example. All right. So let me go live and see this. Let's go live. Okay, the styles have not been applied yet. Okay. So if you are done downloading your live SASS compiler, at the base of your style of your work, you see this watch SASS icon. So you just click it. So once you click it, the first thing you will notice is that a styles.css is created for you. So that's what I mean by compiler. Now, if you see now, what we wrote here, right? Main color is 3498BD. If you come to our CSS, you can see that this is the background color. You can see what it is. Like you get. I don't know if you get. You can see it is being compiled into CSS basically. So our styles.css map, you really don't just leave that. You don't really need to touch anything there. Yeah. So you can see that this compiles into CSS. So that's what it means by preprocessor basically. All right. So we go back. Why is this not showing? Okay. Aha. I forgot to link it. So if we link, so we are going to link here is our styles.css. Please, you're not going to link your SCSS, we are going to link your CSS. Once you link your CSS, you can see the styles are already applied to our page. All right. So are we all on the same page? Is there anything you don't understand? Should I come again? Should I go over any other thing? All right, Jethro.
Yes, ma. I would suggest you come again.
Okay, let me go over it again. So what I just did now was that After creating our new folder with our index.html, we went ahead to download the live SASS compiler. Please download the one from Glenn Marks. Please check what you downloaded. The one from Week Day is depreciated. All right. So please download the one from Glenn Marks. You can see the name here. All right. So once you download this now, right, and you create a new styles.css file. Inside your styles.css, for example, we wrote a basic HTML file. In our body, we had button. So in the button, what we wanted to see the button was click me. All right. So we went ahead to give the button styles in our SCSS file. So we went to this after giving those styles, we went to this now you can see that it's watching, right? If you don't click this, you cannot see your SC, you cannot see your style basically, because this is just compiling it to CSS basically. So if you, even though you link your CSS file here and you don't click this to watch, for example, let me not watch this, and then I go back, and then okay, I think it will work, right? What if I add something new? I'm coming, let me add something. Let's say a border radius 50 pixel. Then I say, yeah, it would not work. You can see, right? The style is not even it's not processed, or what should I say? Should I use the word processed? It's not compiled. It's not compiled into our CSS because we are not watching for SASS. So this is the live compiler. So when you click it, you can see your border radius has been added to your button. So if you go back, you can see the button now has a border radius of 50 pixel. All right. So how we did the styles.css. So we are just using this to learn about variables in SCSS and how variables work. So variables in SCSS allow you to store your reusable values, such as colors, fonts, dimensions, like whatever you want to save. Even this border radius we had now, we can store it as a variable. Okay, I can decide to name my variable border radius. Let me not name it border radius. Let me say border mean. Whatever you want to name it as, and then I write 50 pixels here. And as I said, defining variables in SCSS, you always start with a $sign. All right, you always start with the $sign. Then you write your variable name and then the value. Passing, you write the value of what you want. So instead of writing border radius 50 pixel now, you can come here and say, so we can use this component, can come here and say dollar border name. So if you go back, it is still the same thing you would see. Basically, it is still the same thing. And all right, it's still the same thing you would see in your outputs, you get, right? So for you to know you're on track, this compiles into CSS. Okay, and then you can see that in our CSS we have background color of 3498 BD. You get, you have a font family of sans serif. In your CSS, it does not show your It does not show the variables you mentioned because this is not a CSS syntax. You get. If, for example, I'm trying my best to not confuse you. So just as we did, this is not CSS syntax, right? So if, for example, we use root here, we use root. How is root used again? I think you say, let's say for this now, I say border radius, border mean. Then I write, I don't know, is it in curly braces or not? I remember. If I come to this and say var, and I go back, yes, it's still the same thing. If we go to our CSS now, we can see the roots. Why can we see roots as a variable and we cannot see this dollar sign variable? Why? So the reason why we cannot see it is that this is CSS syntax. This is CSS's way of defining variables at the top of your style sheet. As I mentioned earlier, by the time SCSS was, created, CSS did not have a way you can define variables and stuff, right? It was after SCSS created their after SCSS was created, you get that CSS now had a new version that allowed you to, write your roots and stuff like that at the beginning of the web page. All right, the beginning of the page. All right, give me a second, guys. Let me reply to something. Uh, okay. All right. So, I don't know if you got this example that I just gave. So this is a SCSS syntax for defining variable. SCSS created uh when SCSS was created, CSS did not have these roots. CSS did not have roots. Do you get? But now CSS has roots. So since this is compiling into CSS, basically, since this is compiling into CSS, you can see your output. Like you can see what you just wrote here. I don't know if you get it. I really don't know if you get it. But guys, do you understand what I just explained? Or I should speak. If you want me to go over this plenty times, I'll go over it again. Honestly, like please feel free. I want more people to start writing SCSS. So please feel free. Any question you have, ask me. Please. I'm begging you, Ejo, ask the question today. Please. All right. So there's not that question or everybody. We are all on page, right? Okay. So thank you guys. So let's continue. All right, Ruben. All right. Your question, please.
Once you're writing it under that root bar, do you need to do that dash dash? I mean, you can just write it.
You have to write this dash dash. That is the syntax for roots. Were you there when I was creating the Flexbox project? Were you in my class when I was creating the Flexbox project?
No.
Okay, you were it. If you were in my class, you notice that when we were creating the project used for Flexbox, we defined roots. So these are CSS also has variables, right? So root is a way you can use CSS variables. You get, then this is just this everything has its syntax basically. So this is syntax for this is syntax for defining variables using the root pseudo class. All right. So if you write it, you write this, and then this is the name, the variable name, and what you want to give it. So if you want to use it, you just write var in brackets, then you write the dash dash variable name. But as I said, this is SCSS syntax. It's as if it is bad, though. It is not bad. But as I mentioned, I'll mention it over and over again. When SCSS was created, CSS did not have a way of defining variables already. So it was after it was created, CSS started having, because there are still upgrades, obviously. It is still a growing styling language, right? So with should I say time, CSS now has their own way of defining variables. So this is the syntax for variables in SCSS. If you want to call the variables, you just write dollar and whatever is the variable name. For example, we have this border main, right? So this is what is defined here. I don't know if my explanation was clear enough. I can still go over this again. All right. Thank you very much, Ruben. Thank you very, very much for your question and your feedbacks today. All right. So moving on, once again, if you are just joining us, this slide I'm using to teach, I created a slide because I know the issue of light and stuff has been making, it's going to make people not to be able to join the class. So I created this slide. So you can just click the link, and then we would we would basically work on this together. All right. All right. So here in this example, primary color and font tag are the variables that are defined at the top and used throughout the style sheet. If you need to update the primary color, you can change it in one place. Please, variables are defined at the top of, before you start writing any style, that's when you define your variables. Don't write your variables after you've written body, or like it's the first thing. If you're going to use variables, it should be at the topmost top of your style sheet. All right. So let's go to the next feature that SCSS provides for us. So we have nesting. Nesting allows you to write CSS in a hierarchical structure that mimics HTML, making it easier to understand the relationship between selectors. All right. So nesting, once again, allows you to write CSS in a hierarchical structure that mimics HTML. When I mean that mimics HTML, you know how you have divs in divs. You have, these are your body tags. You have main. You have sections. You have inside those main. You have divs. You have buttons inside the divs. You have you get what I'm trying to say, right? So that is basically what nesting provides. So it makes it to understand the relationship between selectors. So in this example, we are using the UL, LI, and A selectors inside the navigation, reflecting their structure in HTML. This makes the code cleaner and easier to maintain. So for example, all right, so let me create something like this. Let's go back and do something like this so you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay. So let's say, what does this have? We have a navigation. So let's have a nav. Inside that nav, we have a UL. And then inside our UL, we have LI. Let's say this LI wants to list drinks. You can get carbonated drinks, right? Fanta, Coke, and then let's use Which was usually we have Pepsi. Let me create one more. We have Sosa. All right. So now when you're writing your HTML and you see stuff written like this, the first thing that bless me, the first thing that comes to mind is this is a clean code, right? And then you have your nav in your body. You know that this is the parent sorry guys, you know that this is the parent element for the button and nav element, and the nav is also the parent for the UL, and UL is also the parent for the LI. All right, so we're using SCSS. We are using SCSS. You can know, should I say, you can know, you can understand hierarchy, and you can like nesting. The nesting feature of SCSS makes it easy for you to understand how hierarchy works. So for example, let's say we want to style our nav, just like we can see. Can go to our style sheet and say for our nav. So inside our nav, right, we don't want to give style for our nav, but wanted to say that okay, since this is the parent element, we are going to write our nav first. If we go back, we can see how it is written. So inside our nav, you have your unordered list. If you don't want to write any style for the UL, you can still go ahead and write LI, like you get. It's just to show that this is inside this is inside this is inside that. I don't know if you get. There's the way CSS does it is, I don't think this has been compiled yet. So it has not been compiled. Let's write styles for this, all right? So that was is a list style none. So if we go to our CSS, we can see how CSS handles this. When I was writing, you can see how this works. So instead of writing nav UL for SCSS, you can nest these values, you can nest these elements and style them. So now, how nesting works, right? If you want to now style your LI, right, and then you put it inside here, instead of the UL, should I say yeah wrong? Because it's the style that is in UL will apply to the LI before your LI styles, your list styles start working on it. So that's the issue with LI, with sorry, nesting. You have to understand. Once you understand how nesting works, it is easy for you to just follow. So we don't want to style our LI in such a way that the UL is the parent, um UL is the parent, should I say container. Okay. So want to come and say for LI, we want this to display inline block. I want a margin right of 20 pixel. 20 pixel. So if you go to our CSS now, that is even the beauty of SCSS. Anything you are writing, if you make mistake, you can just know sharp sharp because you can already see it in your CSS. So once you understand how CSS works, it is easy, it's easy for you to just carry on. All right. So we can see. So if you go back and you can see our list is in the form of inline block. We have our stuff, our Fanta, Coke, Pepsi, and stuff going on. All right. So now we want to style our anchor tag. We want to style the A. So when styling, okay, we did not give this, we did not Give this. Okay. Let's say inside our li, we want to have an anchor tag. And this one is a, let's say this is a navigation bar. Let's say this is a navigation bar, for example. Let me just change this to a navigation bar. And then let me just copy this. Okay. Let me paste this here. Paste this here. And then also paste this here. I hope you all know what this means, right? This hash symbol. It's so that if you click this, nothing is going to happen. It's not going to lead you anywhere. You're actually going to be on the same page. Like the last example we had, that we had our navigation. If you click the navigation, let's say you click home, you click about, it will scroll to where about is, and that is where the section will be. All right. So let me change this to about us. I just write about. Can write what can we write? What can we write? What can we write? Ew. Let's say what we do. That's too long for a navigation, but anyway. Or can write social, something like that. And then you can write contact us, for example. So let me go back. You can see that these are now anchor tags. These are now links. You get, so we come here. So we want to style our anchor tag now, right? Okay. So the best way to style anchor tags is that if it's for CSS, for example, you could write LIA, and then you start styling, right? So for this one, inside your lists, you just write what did they write? What did they write? What did they write? Your A tag, right? And then you style it inside. Why am I styling the A tag inside the li tag, right? It's because you want all the anchor tags, you want all of this to inherit this style. So if something is the parent, it automatically inherits, the children will inherit the style of the parent. Yes. So if, for example, on this nav now we set style, right? Let's say we set a style for this nav, it's going to have, it's going to, whatever we write inside this nav is going to be like, it's going to inherit the style that we wrote here because this is the parent. So now we are going to style this anchor tag, and it's going to have the, how will I put it now? It's going to inherit the styling from li. All right. So if you come here, let me see what was the style. Text decoration none. Don't want text decorations, and then color. Color darken. Let's just leave it as, let's just write color FFF for now. Let's just write 000. If you go back to our what they call it, if you go back to our code, you can see it has already been styled how we want, right? So if you come to our CSS, you can see the style already in place. You can see how we did here. You can see nav LIA. So to understand how hierarchy works, it's to understand how hierarchy works well. That's why it's good to use SCSS. You understand it, should I say, perfectly, honestly. So I'm hoping Does anybody have any question about this section I just finished explaining? Is there any question? Do we all understand how nesting works? All right. So once again, if you have any question, please do not hesitate to ask. All right. Okay. So let's move on. So if you are using my slide, we are at slide Lima. We are going to slide 10, basically. All right. So slide 10 talks about partials and imports. So partials allow you to split your CSS into smaller modular file, while R, like R import, like I don't know what this R sign is called. What is this thing called? Okay, I don't know what it's called though. Okay, Jethro.
Yeah, sorry, ma. I needed to ask you.
Okay.
When I came back, I was following up, but I saw a style.css file now
Yeah.
on your. So, are we going to link the SAS file and the style CSS file for it to have a sync or something?
No. Let me
Okay.
explain why this works, all right?
All right.
So when I started explaining, thank you once again for your question. Thank you very much. When I started explaining, and then we what do I call it? We created our styles.scss. Once we wrote our style, once we had written our styles inside, and we click watch SASS, which was here, we realized that this styles.css and styles.css map was created here for us. This styles.css map, please don't touch anything inside. You don't need to know what's going on there, basically. You get. But then this what do I call it? That is what a preprocessor does. Preprocessor is supposed to compile whatever you write inside to the original language, basically. So now, whatever we write in our, when we go to our index.html, we are going to link our styles.css, not .scss. This will only compile the work. His work is just to be a preprocessor, basically. So it will just be compiling into our it's just be compiling into our CSS for us. Okay. So you don't need to link them, because whatever you write here will appear here. Whatever you write here will not appear in SCSS. Please, don't go and write anything here, basically. Whatever you write here would compile as, for example, this nesting we just did, right? We have, see the way we nested it. UL is the parent, is the child of the nav, but then LI is the child of the nav, but not a direct child of the UL, like the LI rather. You get the anchor tag is also a child of the nav, and then also the LI tag, right? Okay. So do you get what I mean by that? Or I should still go over it again? Or there's somewhere you don't understand
No, I
still?
understand now. I understand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Jethro. So please, does anybody have any question concerning nesting before we move forward? All right, no question. All right. So So the R import, what does this R mean? Let me check. What does, if anybody know, please tell me. What does this signify? Huh? Ah, even Google is not giving me. Oh, please, does anybody know what this this A stuff does? This one. Our scholars in the house, please help me. I don't know what this means. All right. So while R import, I just be calling it at whatever at this. All right. While at import allows you to include them in a main style sheet. Partials are typically named with an underscore, e.g., header.scss to indicate that they shouldn't be compiled directly. So once again, partials allows you to split your SCSS into smaller modular files, while R import allows you to include them in a main style sheet. Partials are typically named with an underscore, e.g., header.scss, to include that they should not be compiled directly. So let's talk about what partials do. All right. So basically, let's say in our CSS now, we are writing a very, very long code for one big company, and then we want to write a lot of variables. Let's say, for example, we want all our variables to be in a separate file, right? So let's say we have variables SCSS. So if you have variables.scss, let's copy this, let's cut this from here. So Control X that, and then if you go here, you will paste it here. All right. So you can see that the .css is compiled, is written, it's automatically created. Basically, it's automatically created. So once we call that, so how do we know that? If you go back to our work, we can see that. We refresh this. Why is this one still working? Let me go back to SCSS. Okay. Wait, what's going on? It's not even supposed to be working. So it's because this thing has already compiled. That is why it's still like this. They watch SASS all over. That's why it's doing like this. Okay. So anyway, basically, since we don't have this as main color and everything, so we create a new file, and then for us to what do they call it? For us to be able to use them in our new, let me add, because we've already compiled, that why it's doing like this. Let's say add what would I add? What would I add? What would I add? Let's say add color. Let's say I want to write this one, color text, and then I write let me put a gray color, DDD, a very dark gray, not this light one. All right. So let's say I have this, and then I come to my style.css and I say color dollar. What's happening? Color dollar. What's the problem? Okay. Dollar border. Let's say I put what did I just call this now? Color text. Let me see. This carry. All right. Yes. So this has not compiled to our CSS, right? Why has this not compiled? Because we have not imported this to the main SCSS. So for us to be able to use whatever style we have here in our main style. So let's say this style is what we want as our main, right? We use the imports. There we use the imports, all right? So can go and we can import this. So we can come here and then you can see there's a quotation before import. So we can go and import the what did we call it? You can import the so we can go and import the variables into here. So we can say imports. We can see that. So this is how you import stuff into SCSS. Use the import. So this was a URL. This was a link. You use the import URL and you import what you want to import. So this is a page. So we import and write our var, and then we. So once we save this and we go to our CSS that it is compiling into, what is the problem? Oh, what is the problem? What did I do wrong? It's supposed to compile. This is supposed to compile actually. So what is the issue? What's the issue? What's the issue? What's the issue? Import variable. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. I don't know. I do something wrong. What am I doing wrong? Let's see. Oh wait, am I supposed to call the import statement here? Let me see. It's not supposed to be here now. What's the problem? It is actually supposed to work and compile here. Error. What is the error? Let's see. What's the error? Background undefined variable. You have a compilation error. Main color. This is wrong. What is the issue? Let's go to the documentary. Let's check what is the issue. Am I importing this wrongly? What am I doing wrong? All right, guys, please, the attendance has been released, so you can just write, you can fill in your attendance, please. So let me go to what imports. So let's look at imports with the ability to globally accessible. Let's use SCSS for example. What's the issue? I don't know why this import is having problems. Did they import the... Sorry guys, I'm trying to figure out why I was having problems. Do you import the file itself? Let me check. Let me see. Dot slash variables dot cs dot sss. Error still errors. What is happening? If what you compiled is not working, you're going to see an error popping up there. Let's read about imports. So SASS extends SCSS import rules at import rule with the ability to import SASS and SCSS style sheets, providing access to mixins, functions, and variable, and combining multiple style sheets CSS together. Unlike plain CSS imports, which require the browser to make multiple HTTP requests as it renders your page. SASS import has the same syntax as SCSS import, except they allow multiple imports to be separated by commas rather than requiring each one to have its own imports. Also, in the indented syntax, imported URL aren't required to have quotes, right? So, okay, I didn't even know about this. If I go to the documentation, the SASS team discourages the continuous use of the import rule. SASS will gradually phase it out over the next few years and eventually remove it from the language entirely. Prefer the use rule instead. Note that CSS supports use. Users of other implementation must use the import rule instead. So what is the issue? This is still supposed to work. Um, let's say I have foundation. Code. Guys, sorry, I'm still trying to figure out what is happening. Wait. Should I use you? Has it been depreciated? Hello? New arrow.
Ma, please, can you maybe a suggestion though? I don't know whether it will work.
All right.
Can you please stop the server first? Because you know that you
Okay, it's true.
yeah, just stop the server, then still try
Start
again.
It's true. At the top of it, let me see. Let me try placing this at the top. God, thank you so much, John. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, it has worked. It has worked. All right. It has worked. The problem was it was not at the top of the page. That was the problem. It was not at the top of the page. So if we say we can see success, if you see error here, that means something you are doing is wrong. So if you come to our CSS and we can see the color has been applied. Please, you guys help me thank John. John, thank you so much. Thank you very much. Interesting. All right, so yeah. So as you saw from the documentation, the import would even soon be depreciated and use will be the should I say the new import. What do they call it? But that will be the new import basically. Use will soon be the new import. Okay, so I should pin the attendance. So let me pin the attendance. So guys, the attendance has been pinned and then you can check it out. So basically that is that as we saw. This is how to import. So you import at the top. If you import below, it will not work, just as we saw right now, right? If you import below, it's not going to work. So now you have your variables stored in a different folder, and then on a different file rather, and then you have your main SCSS with a separate file running, right? So that's that. I'm hoping with this small, should I say, with this small chaos that just happened, you've understood how to use the import, like say statement rule, but if you've not, please you can ask. If there's any questions so far, you could ask, please. Guys, I'm here for you. Okay, no question on the imports. All right, so no question basically. All right. So moving forward, so partials are typically named with an underscore, e.g., underscore header dot SCSS to indicate they shouldn't be directly compiled. All right. So we check this. So let's check where. Let me use this as an example where partials was defined, right? So as a convention, SASS files that are meant to be are only meant to be imported, but not compiled on their own. Begin with underscore, okay, as in underscore code.scss or whatever you want to, you know. So these are called partials, and they tell SASS tools not to try to compile those files on their own. So you can leave off the underscore when importing a partial. All right. So for example, okay, if you write an index.scss with guys with underscore or underscore index.stats in a folder, when the folder itself is imported, that file will be loaded in its place. For example, now let me show you how that works. So for example, these are our variables. We don't want, as you can see, it's not even compiling because it's not the same syntax for CSS, all right, for defining CSS variable. So if we don't want this to even be compiled, like, you know, should I say in the first place, let me rename this. So you can write underscore variable dot SCSS. So if let me see, I'll watch SASS. As you can see, it's at the top of at the top of our project. So it's not going to compile. I can even delete this if I want. It's not going to compile. We don't want it to compile on its own. We want it to compile into the main, should I say, work when it's all done, basically. So that's what partial do. It is not compulsory, but basically that is what partial do, as I have mentioned. Did we all understand what partials do? Or I should still go over it again?
Can you come over again one
All
more
right.
time?
So partials, right? If we don't want, but if we notice, I told you that it is a preprocessor that compiles into SCSS, right? So if you don't want, um, if you don't want a certain file, for example, now, right? This is our main style, like this is our main uh, work that we want. I don't know if you get my point, right? And then this is the main work we have, and then this is our main style too. So if we want to create other subfolders that we are going to import into our main file, right? We can decide we don't want them to also compile. I don't know how to describe it. We don't want them to compile into CSS because we are going to import it. So there's no need for them to compile. So that since we are going to import it, it's all going to compile in the main SCSS. I don't even know if I'm explaining this well, but I hope I tried my best. Do you understand? If you don't understand, we can read the documentation to understand better.
Okay, it's better we read the documentation.
All right, let me go and read the documentation out. So partial, right? As a convention, SASS files that are only meant to be imported, not compiled on their own, begin with an underscore. And these underscores are called partials. And these partials tell SASS tools not to try to compile those files on their own. You get? They tell the SASS tools not to try to compile these files on their own. So while importing, you don't need to add the underscore again. So for example, let me see. If you write an index.scss or index.sas in a folder, that's with the underscore. So this is a partial file. When the folder itself is imported, that file will be loaded in its place. So, for example, these are our variables, right? If we use it in our main, we wrote it as a partial, you get. If we use it in our main styles or SCSS, you know that even though this is not compiling, once we put it here, okay, for example, now let's say we even had errors. Let's say something big, we had errors here, right? And this is a partial, and it's not compiling. Once we add it here, and we use it in this our main SCSS file, it is going to automatically show that error because we are using it here. That's what I mean by compile, basically. So if you are going to use it in the main one, if you are going to call it as an import, you can decide to not compile it. Since you are going to import it, and the main thing you are going to import the main file you are going to import it to is also going to be compiled, basically. So in order for us to do that, that is why they introduce partial. So partials add an underscore, then the file name. Are we clear? Hey God, I'm hoping you're understanding this. Oh Jesus. I hope you all understand. It's not easy. It's not easy, but we'll all catch up at the end of the day. All right. So wait, hope this is recording, Adi. Okay, it's recording. Okay, it's recording. Ah, thank God. All right. So moving on. Where were we? Okay, this is where we were. So the next they call it again. The next basic feature of SASS is mixins and function. Talked about mixing in the beginning, and I said I was going to talk both broadly about mixins and functions in further in the class, right? So this is we've got to the place where I'm going to talk about. So mixins and functions allow you to create reusable block of styles or calculations. Mixing can include groups of CSS properties, while function return values. Okay. In this example, the mixing allows us to define reusable button style. The mixing accepts two arguments. One, which is the BG color. The BG color is for the background color, like this is a variable, and then padding with a default padding value of 10 pixels, as we can see here, right? Oh, sorry guys. For example, we have this, right? All right. So if we want to include, uh, let me just read the documentation. I feel like it will be better because I did not write about this extensively. Mixing is not very easy to understand, right? So for the documentation, let me drop the link for the documentation. So that is the link for SASS documentation. So basically, mixins allow you to define styles that can be reused throughout your style sheet. They make it easy to avoid non-semantic classes like, for example, float left and to distribute collections of style in libraries. Mixins are defined using the art mixing rule, which is written as mixing the name of what you want, blah blah blah, or mixing at mixing name, and then you give the argument, right? A mixing's name can be any SAS identifier that doesn't begin with dash dash. Any SAS identifier that doesn't begin with dash dash can be a mixing. And it contains any statement other than top level statement. All right. So they can be used to encapsulate styles that can be dropped into a single style rule. They can contain style rules of their own that can be nested in other rules or included at the top level of the style sheet. Or they can just serve to modify variables. So mixins are included into the current context. This is the example they are using the art includes rule, which is written as does, right? So for example, this is our SCSS, right? So we have a mixin, and this mixin, we have reset lists with a margin 0 and padding 0 with list style none. So now we are even what do they call it? We are even having a mixing inside another mixing, for example, right? So want to create a new mixing. Right? Want to create a new mixing. This is just an example. And in this mixing, you have horizontal list, and inside the horizontal list, we included how to use a mixing. If you use the art includes rule, you use the art includes keywords or rule, you get, to include a mixing into where you want to use it, like at that particular point, you get. So want to create inside this mixing. This is an example of how mixes can be included inside another mixing. Like when it comes to nesting, as I said, right? SCSS is CSS or steroids. You are included, okay, basically, all right. Let's just leave it at that. So inside this mixing, after we've included these styles, which is going to inherit, we are going to add display inline block with margin, or the styles are given there, right? All right. So we also have the nav UL, right? So for this nav UL, we want to include horizontal lists. Okay. So now this is the compilation in CSS. So CSS is looking at it like, if you think this line of code is long, why I'm saying it's not long is that you can use this block of codes in another place. when you are using, what is different? You now ask, what's different between import and mixins, for example? So mixins can be used in that, um, should I say, file, basically. You get, you can still import a mixin. You can actually still import a mixin if you have it in a file. But basically, mixins are like block of, it's not block of code, block of style that you want to repeat and use over and over again. So when you want to use mixins, use art includes whatever you named your mixin. All right. So now this is compiled here. We have the margin navigation UL of margin 0, and then you also have padding 0, and then list style of none. Now, why this is showing as this one is showing navigation ULLI, like you get, right? It is because in this mixing that you have here, which already, okay, in this mixing you have here, you added styles for li for the lists. Do you get me? Added style for the list. So here is going to get style of, so you added in this navigation UL, you added include horizontal lists. Now, because horizontal list has the style of list, like list is where you call the style, is going to be compiled into your CSS as nav ul and li. So you add this li because you included this mixing, which has the style of for list elements already inside here. Oh God, inside this place. Guys, do you understand? Please tell me you understand. If you don't, I will go over it again. I will still go over it again. Please. Okay, everybody understands, right? Okay. Okay, thank you very much your for your feedback. So that is just an example of how mixes are used. So if I go to this my what do they call it? This my should I say code, right? So for mixing, you can have this in this example, the mixing allows us to define reusable button styles, basically, right? So for the button style, you have background color. The mixing accepts two arguments. Let me see if we talk about mixing arguments. Yes, they have arguments, yes. So mixing's name, like all SASS identifier, treats hyphens and underscores as identical, which means that we set a hyphen list and reset underscore list both refer to the same mixing. So if you are using underscore, use underscore. If you are using hyphen, use hyphen. Don't mix it. All right. If not, it will view it as the same thing. So this is a historical handover from the very early days of SASS, when it is only allowed underscores in identifier name, blah 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 blah. All right. So arguments. Mixins can also take arguments, which allows their behavior to be customized each time that they are called. The arguments are specified in the at mixing rule after the mix's name as a list of variable names surrounded by parentheses. All right. The mixing must then be included with the same number of arguments in the form of SASS script expressions. You don't need to understand SASS script expressions, but like these are like SASS script expressions. Just forget about that. But also that you include them with this dollar sign. That is SASS script. With dollar sign is that SASS script expression. So that's basically. So the values of these expressions are available we did the mixins body as the corresponding variable. So you can customize their behavior each time that they are called. And the arguments are specified in a mixins rule. Once again, I'm going over this. After the mixins name, as a list of variable name which are surrounded by parentheses. The mixin must then be included with the same number of arguments in the form of, the SASS script expression, which is the dollar sign and then the expression. All right. So, for example, this this stuff. Let's leave this one for now, like this DIR and RCM. Just forget about this one. We'll reach there. These are like advanced SASS stuff, basically. For example, we have a mixin, and that mixin has, oh God, they are not giving this. This is not basic. They're not giving basics that I want in this place. How will you understand this one if you've not understood the basic one? You don't have easy ones. But let me go back to this one that I wrote. All right. So you have BG color here. So you can just customize. So this is giving, oh, this can be customized. Let's just see. Let's just do a hands-on. When you write, we'll understand. I've already pinned the attendance. So you can go and check the attendance and then you can fill the attendance. We noticed that some people, last week, some people will fill attendance and run away from class. So that's why you saw that they did not give prize to everybody, because a lot of people did that. They realized that, oh, attendance is used to give data rewards, right? So they, once they fill the attendance, they will go. So we take note of all these things. So please, if you fill your attendance, stay for the class, right? Stay for the class. Don't do chua, don't do wuru. All right. So yeah. So I pinned this and then you can pin your, where did I pin it? Yeah, I think I pinned it here. All right, so you can go and check it out. Okay. So let's say for button, these are our button that we have. Let's have a mixing. Let's say we have a mixing that says mixing. And then let's say we want to call our mixing button styles. What did I do? Button styles. So as I mentioned, if you use button underscore style, use button dash style, it's really at the same. So if you are calling your mixing with underscore or hyphen, please maintain the same, maintain that tidiness and be orderliness, please. Don't mix it up, right? So now for this one, you have BG color. So with SASS script expression, you have your BG color. And then what else you have? Then you have your padding. What did you even do? Okay. Dollar padding of, let's say, 10 pixel, right? So for example, now you now have background color. So this is your background color. You use BG color. Now BG color, you know, trying to say that when I'm going to use this mixing BG color, I want to use this whole block of code, but I can define BG color, background color, as anything I like by the time I'm reusing this. I don't know if I am very, very clear on this one, but that is what it does. So we say padding. Instead of writing padding 10 pixel, we'll just come and write dollar padding. Right. So we want border none, and then color. FFF. That is white. Okay. So for example, we want to include this style into our button. So to use a mixing, you add include. Include and then the mixing name. You see, right? Include and then the mixing name, which is button styles. So they already even giving you color because you can see you have background. What did I write here? What's the problem? Why is this color and not background color? That's weird. But then here we want the color. Now, because here was where we specify this, how will I put it? Don't want to use this mixing, right? We can say now that I want to use the mixing, we can give it a color. We can start to say, oh, now we want our background color to be which color will I use? This color. Want our background color to be this. And then we also want our padding, as we can see here, to be 20 pixel. So if we go back, let me even see if we come to our CSS now. Okay, not this one. We come to our CSS. We can see that our button, our background color for our button is 30 blah blah blah. The padding is so and so. The border has been given and the color is also there. Because why the other happen? Because this mixing has variables. Like we say, oh, anytime we're using this mixing, we can decide to have what do they call it? Arguments that we can change. So for example, let me have another button in my HTML. Let's say I have a button. Let me just call this one. Hi. This one, let me use the class name instead. Let me use the class name. Let me say class of BTN1. So let me go here instead of writing button. Let me use btn1.btn1 so that it's not affect all the button classes. Let me create a new button and call this one btn2. And for this btn2, I write hey there. All right. So if I come here, I can use my mixing. I already have all the style I want for button, right? But I said, oh, since I want to reuse this mixing, button2 is a class that we are styling. I want to be able to change the padding and I want to also be able to change the background color by the time I'm using this mixing. All right. So I'll say include. Let me also add for border radius. Let's say let me call this radius. Let me just call it radius. So let's say I have border radius before border, after border. Border radius of radius, right? And then when I came here, I also added 50 pixel. And then this is my button. So I added I included button styles. And this is my button style. I have let's say in this one I want the color to be what will I use now? F6. Yeah, this very dark shade of green. And I want the padding to be, let's just say 50 pixel. and I want the border radius to just be 20 pixels. All right, if we go back to our work, we can see different buttons. Now, these buttons, they don't have, what will I put now? They have, here's the science. Come here, dear. Where is button 2? Why is button 2? What's the problem? Is it compiling? Yes, yes, yes. But that is 20 pixel padding of, yeah. All right. So we can see we have two different buttons, but from the same line of code. So mixins basically are reusable block of code. You can reuse the whole block basically, and then you can have arguments in mixes. All right, you can try to have arguments in your mixing basically. All right, this is just an example of how you can have your mixing and arguments. I have to include them when reusing them again. So now you can decide to say, oh, all my mixes should be imported. You can decide to create it in a separate variable. If you are using a variable, I say a new file that has mixins in it, it's good to also create it as a partial. All right, so let me create a new one. Let me partial. So this is a partial file. Let's call this mixins, for example, .scss. So let's say I carry all the mix. I say I don't want my mixes to be in my main file. It's blocking my road. I cannot see where. I don't want to see it here. I'll just paste it here, and then I'll come to my styles.css, and then I will then import mixins. All right. So if I am done, please remember to cover it. Remember to add semicolon. SCSS is to behave like programming language, not like CSS that or HTML. It will give you error. So you can see that you can still see this. If you notice, there was no CSS created because this is a partial. You don't want it to compile. It is a partial file. So, guys, did we just understand what I just finished saying? All right, Jethro, your question.
Sorry, Ma, we need to ask a lot of questions because we are new
Please,
to
you can go
this.
ahead. No
Yeah,
problem.
so these mixins and include, right? From what you
Yeah.
just explained, does that mean it is styles that can be appended to a particular element, like what you just used is the buttons, and
Yes,
then you give,
yes,
okay, that was what I wanted to understand,
yes,
because
that is
we
it.
have we had variables which we
Yes,
imported. Yes, so
yes.
now the variable is can be for all the elements that were styled, but the mixing is for a particular element, if I can get it right. I don't know whether I'm getting
No,
it right. I'm just trying my
no,
best.
no, no. Let me
Okay.
explain. I get where you are coming from. Thank you so much for your question. As I said, at the end of this class, people that don't like SCSS must like it by force. So the only way you can understand this is by asking questions. All right. So the difference between a variable and a mixing. So imports are completely different though. We could decide first of all that we want all our variables to be in the same page. But for separation of concern, if I'm a new developer to your work, right? And I come and see, oh, variables are in one file, all your mixings are in one file, I know exactly what you are talking about. Like everything is not scatter. Like see your style. You can only see styles here. We know that, oh, this is just for your, should I say, SCSS, you get, basically. So imports are completely different. You can decide to not import it. You can decide to import it. So now moving on. All right. Variables. For example, we say we want our color. We name this color main color. We decide to name it. When you start doing JavaScript, you see more on variable. Variable, you can name it anything you want to name it, anything you want to call it. You can decide to name it whatever you like, right? So that, but at the same time, you should also give it names that is I don't know what to use, but a name that makes sense. For example, now I use this on my body, so I named it main color. Main color to show that, oh, this is the main color for our layout, right? So please try and also give it names that apply to kind of what you're going to use it for. For example, I wrote color text. I not just write green color or be gray color. I wrote that, okay, so you will see and say, oh, this is the color for texts, all right? So that is it. So try and give it colors that in quotes make sense. So variables, you can use it to define whatever you want to, like. But for variables, you cannot you cannot have a variable as a block of code. And what differentiates a variable from a mixin? All right. So mixin, let's say we want to call a mixin. So for our mixin, we call this mixin button style. We can decide to name it anything. If you name it whatever you name it, just make sure when you are calling it or defining it in you are defining it, you still use the same name you gave it as a variable, right? So now these arguments are still like variables. So this argument, I can even decide to remove this 10 pixel. What am I using it for here? I can decide to remove 10 pixel from it. You will still get your same output, right? Just remove the 10 pixel from there. It is to say that I want to use this block of code for different things. But when I want to reuse this block of code, I want to change the background. I can give it any background color I want. I can give it any padding I want. I can give it any border radius I want. But I want all, whenever it is defined, I don't want a border, and I want the text color to be FFF, that is white. I don't know if you get me. Do you get what I'm trying to say? All right. So that is basically what mixins will do for you, right? So it said that when I want to code, when I want to use this. So for example, I had button that I created by HTML5. So in my buttons, I decided to say, oh, let the button have this style. I included for you to use a mixin, you use the include, though, you include it. So included button styles, and you decided to call the variables that you wanted. So now, as you can see, you can decide to, if you like, you can start with padding first. You can start like, but the way you arrange it is the same way you will use it again. So you cannot go and call padding before you call background colors. You throw error for you, because that is not what you defined as in your mixing. All right. So that's how it works basically. Please, if you don't understand this, so I will even send resources later. I don't know if the sub mentors have sent it to the Discord, but I send resources to them. I send video resources, I send book resources, whatever, so that you can understand how SCSS works basically. All right. As I said, it is not easy to learn. It has some sort of programming language type of syntax, but you would understand it. Once you understand it, it is very, very interesting to actually work with, basically. So we included it, and in this one, so you know that you can also add other styles to this button, right? So let's say on this button, you want, what does this button not have? Let me look for a style. Let's say on this button, you want text transform to be capitalized, right? you can see that your text transform is now capitalized. You can add other, if you know text transform is basically, you can start to say uppercase. There are a lot of values for it. So now is uppercase. You want everything here to be uppercase. You can still decide to add other styles that were not defined in your mixing after you've included it in wherever you want to include. You can decide to still add style. So for this one, let's say here I want, what do I want? What do I want? I want it to have the what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I want it to have a, hey, I'm actually out of it for some reason. This is background color. And button 2 did not take this background color. Is it just me? No, this background color was not defined. What is the issue? If the background color was defined, why is it not showing in this output? So for example, just to give an example, you can still use defined variables. Instead of calling a color, you can still use variables that you've defined. You can still use variables that you've defined here. So for example, we had different colors, right? I can decide to say this should be BG color. BG color was that blue color that we defined. So for some reason it's not highlighting. What's the problem? But then it's compiling. Now, what is the problem? What is the problem? What is the problem? So, what's the problem? What am I doing wrong? Let me save this. Error. All right. So, what is the error? Undefined variable. How is this an undefined variable? Wait, do we have this in our variables? Let me see. Okay, BG colors is not in our variables. Oh. Let me use main color. I get now. No wonder it was throwing an error. Yes, success. So if you come back here, I'm supposed to still see this. What is the problem? It's compiling, but I cannot see it as background color. This is happening. What's happening? Let's say for border, I want 60 pixels. Let me exaggerate this to see what is the issue. It's not taking this. Wait, did I do something wrong? Oh, yes. This is BTN1 without, you see, right? I'm calling this class name wrong. This is supposed to be BTN2. Now, as you can see, we have it here. So we have it as our main color. Our main color is blue, so it just blends into this. So let me change it. So what do we have? Let me see which other color do I have. Let's say color texts, for example. Color text, right? So we can see our button already here. So yes, so now it's working, everything is fine. All right. Do we all understand this? Thank you very much, John. John, you have come through for me today. Thank you very much for your inputs. All right. Please, if there's any question that you would like to ask. Okay, if there's any question that you would like to ask, please ask. I want to make sure everybody understands what we are trying to do today. All right. So moving forward, the next important what do they call the next important feature we'll be looking at is the extend and inheritance. Okay. Mixes and functions allow you to create reusable blocks of style for calculations. Mixes can include groups of CSS properties while functions return values, right? So for example, you can see, oh, what did I do? Now I'm realizing what I did. Shit. Shit. I you know me to write I did not write the content, I repeated this content here. Oh wow. Let's just go to the documentation. Just now I'm realizing it. What did I do there? Okay. So extend an inheritance, right? So extend. So there are often cases when designing a page when one class should have all styles of another class as well as its own specific style. For example, the BEM methodology, we'll be looking at BEM methodology because it's very important, even though you are not using SSS. BEM methodology is a very nice way of styling your HTML, writing your HTML to make it more easier to understand and then also easy to style. Okay, we'll be looking at that too. So the VM methodology encourages modifier classes that go on the same elements as block or element classes. But this can create cluttered HTML. It is prone to errors from forgetting to include both classes, and it can bring non-semantic style concerns to your markup, right? So, for example, this is how error, what do they call it? BM methodology is. We'll look at it so you don't have to worry yourself about BM methodology for now. So the SAS extend rule comes in to solve the problem where you forget your class and you know what you just named basically, right? So it's written as the syntax is at extends and then you have your selector and it tells us that one selector should inherit the styles of another, right? So basically now you have this border, you have the style in this place, and then you have the extends dot error, and then you have the style you want to add to it. All right. So let me go to this example I gave. I think this example is easy. That's why I decided to also create this one because the documentation is some of their codes. I mean, the work is not so basic for you to understand. I don't like documentation like that, right? So as a beginner, it might be difficult for you to understand with just their documentation. So in this example, the percentage message selector is a placeholder, right? That contains common styles, right? Both the success and error classes extended, thereby inheriting the shared properties while also adding their own unique styles. All right. So as you can see, we have the message, and then we have padding of 15 pixel, border radius of 5 pixel, and also have size type of what do they call it? One rem. All right. So to extend the base class, that is the message, you want to use resources like dot success, that's the success class you have, maybe you wrote it to your regular HTML. So you have is an extension of message with background color, blah blah blah, and color. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say in this. So their own also like should I say does the same thing. Okay. So extend for me is kind of more like it's still kind of like mixing, but Let me just show this as an example so that we will understand. So let's say we have a what do I use? What do I use to understand this? What do I use? What do I use? What do I use? I'm trying to think of what to use so that we'll have what example to use. Um, let me say, let's say we have a div, and in this div, I think the class is let me not give it a class. Let's say we have what. Let's say we have I'm trying to think of what to use. Let's say we have another div here, and then this div has a class of or let's say div one. Let's call it div one, and then I'm not trying to use simple code snippet so that it's easy for us to understand. We have message, so that's the content. Then we click this, and then we have all this one, this two, and then we have let's just say sender, for example. Get that. So if we come to let's say want to style, let's see, let's say want to style message. Let's say for our style. Try to see how I can explain this extends as much as possible. Our style, we have message dot give one. We have the style of let me see what style was added here. Let's see padding of 15 pixels. Oh, I don't know. I want it to be what I call this now. Trying to see. Let's just see color of let me use red. If I go here, I can see. Wait, it did not. What's happening? SCSS. What is the problem? Oh! I'm styling this outside the body. You can see styling this outside the body. So it's assuming since it's a nested document that it's just style this outside. I'm styling this outside the body, so it's still error. What's the problem? Oh, that's not even the problem. That's not even the problem is that hashtag. Alright, so if I come here, I can see decompile. Okay, this is for the nav. Please, what am I doing here? Let me just go outside of this. Calm down. Okay. Yeah, we can see that it has the color. So now, if we want to use the dot extend, right, and come to our second one, and say dot p2. So to use the extend, use the at extend, then your class that you want to extend, right? So we want to say at extend dot p1, and then want to say wait, what did I just do? What did I do? Want to say
Hello, Divine. We can't see your screen. We can't see what you're doing.
okay, you can't see my screen.
Yes.
Oh,
But I can see your screen. I can see your screen now. Maybe it's from your side, Mr. John.
Can anybody else see my screen?
Yes, we can see
Anybody?
your screen. We can see your
Okay.
screen.
If you're having trouble seeing my screen apart from John, please can you indicate? Probably it's a network issue. All right, everybody can see this screen. I'm sure it's a network issue. Let's say I want to extend. I want that to be an. You can even see. You can already see, right? It's already an extension of it already. You can already see that it is an extension. It's already having the the properties of everything in this class, right? It's already having the properties. Now let's say that for few differences, I can decide to use font size with the let's say 100 pixels. All right. So that is like good, but then it's inheriting all the style here. So yeah, what is the difference between extend and you know it's, I think I also give this as an assignment. I'll add it to assignment. Write differences between extend I'll not explain it, I'll give it an assignment. Write the difference between the extend and what do they call it? And mixing. What's the difference between using an extend and the difference between using mixing? So let me write that down. After I'm done, I'll add this example. Uh, so this is how you can use extend keyword. I'll explain what's the difference, but I'll write it here so that you go and read about it and write what you think is the difference between the extend and then the mixing. Alright. So moving forward, that is it. Okay. Does anybody have any question about extend? Or we all understand it? Okay. Continue. Okay. So moving forward, we have okay, so I think that's all on the basic SASS features. Those are basic SASS features. So once you understand those basically, they are basically good to go with SCSS and SASS. They are good to go. And that's that. So I said I'll be talking about BM methodology. It's looking at it is already kind of late to start BM methodology. But anyway, let's see. Hopefully we'll finish in good time, right? So BM methodology, which is block element modifier. It is a popular front-end methodology for writing CSS and HTML that ensures scalability, maintainability, and consistency in web projects. It provides a structured approach to naming classes and organizing your code, making collaboration easier across teams. So what does it mean? You have the block. A block is a standalone entity that is meaningful on its own. For example, header, button, form, you have nav, they are all blocks. They can all be regarded as blocks because it is entity that is meaningful on its own. Even list too, you get. So um a part of a block that performs a specific function is element. For example, a button icon or a label within a button block. And you also have modifier. A modifier is a flag that modifies the block or element appearance, behavior, or state. For example, a distribute state for a reporting. So, origins and purpose. BEM was developed by Yandex to improve code consistency and scalability, especially in large code bases. It helps with teamwork and together more efficiently by defining clear rules where you can, structure CSS. So the BEM syntax and naming convention. So BEM uses a strict naming convention for CSS classes to create a logical relationship between the block, element, and the modifier. All right. So the syntax look like this. So we have blocks. So if you're trying to call a block in your CSS, for example, you use dot block here. If it's an element, you call the blocks before calling the element, and then the modifier either use it's supposed to be dash dash. This is wrong. It's supposed to be dash dash. So anyway, so moving forward, so this is how to use the okay, yes. I don't know why they give this that error. Okay, it's not an error. Alright. So you can see this is double underscore. If you want to call the elements, you use a double underscore, and then the modifier, you use a double hyphen. Right? So for example, block naming, this is used in code. You have a block is the main component and it can be named descriptively based on its purpose. Alright. Then you have the body. You have a button, a class. Let's say you have a button. So the class is button or maybe clicking or something. And then element naming. For example, you have a div that contains title and stuff. As I said, elements are part of a block that performs a specific function. So this is instead of just writing header, for it to define the elements and stuff, you use double underscore card header, and then this is so that this is the element of the block. And then for modifier naming, we use the double dash, right? So modifiers are used to define variations of a block or element and are named double dash. For example, you can start to have button primary, just like this one is the variation of a block, and that have different ones, for example. So example of using BM in just normal HTML and CSS. You have your block, which is the menu. Okay, so you want to create a class menu. So because we are going to name, we are going to call this this is the home. This is the home, and we have this is the home. The content is home, right? So we are going to do the menu items. We are going to style all this the same way. So menu underscore items. I'll just do an overview of BM methodology because time is really not on our side. And then for modifiers, use dash dash active, for example. So which is used to modify, right? Then the benefits of using BM is that it improves code readability, and then BM clear structured naming convention makes it easy for developers to understand the relationship between the HTML element just by looking at the class name. Yes, we can understand the relationship that this has with this just by looking at the class name. So it reduces selector spec- specificity. With DM, you rely less on deeply nested selectors. This reduces specificity issues and makes overriding styles easier without using the important keyword. And then there's better collaboration in teams because DM follows a consistent pattern. Multiple developers can work on the same project with fewer merge conflicts and misunderstandings about class naming. Alright. So for example, implement DM fast, right? Start enhances DM by enabling features like nesting, mixes, and maps to simplify DM structures. Using nesting to create DM structures. So in this example, class nesting mirrors the structure of DM in the code cleaner while still performing, while still following the conventions, right? So we have this div, and then the div is it has the class of cards, and then we have class of card header nested, and then we have a div of card body, and then we also have another div. You get, so this is also uh, how will I put this is also this how will I put this now? It's also mirroring say this card just like how I explained what modifiers do, but then how will I put it now? But then this is the variation basically, let's put it that way. So now for this our card header, if we go to style card header, it's going to have the same um we're going to have the same what do they call it? The same styling that will apply throughout. Yes. If you are reading this slide, you can see what I'm trying to talk about. And then you have the card body, and so you can see that when they were specifying what do they call it? The card header. All right. Let me even do this. Let's do this together so that you can understand this a whole lot better. All right. So let's get something like this done. No freedom. Then we have a D. What the name? The name of this D is, let's say, dot card. So in this card you have um dot card header. Alright. So for this card header, we are going to have you can have card header content in it. So me already coming, I already know that this is where you're going to call your this is the header for your card. And then you can have another view of class card. Um, so let's say card body. Yes, just say welcome to Cypress or something. I'm coming. Guys, give me a second. I will get back to you shortly. Just give me a second. All right. Yeah. All right. So back to what I was saying. So let's say our class body has content of where was I? Welcome to Python, for example. And then outside this card, we're going to create a new card. All right. So let's say div of let's say the cards. And then you have card um you have card highlight. So this is a modifier basically. And as I said, what modifiers do, which is a double dash. Modifiers are used to define variation of a block or element, and they are named with a double dash. Right. So we have our highlighted cards, and then we also want this to have a piece of class, new card header. Okay, so I wanted to say hi guys. Okay. Okay. I want to say so let me copy this. This is the same class name basically. Then just paste it here and Ctrl S. Yeah? So say welcome to Tech too. So you can see we have if you come here, you can see our cards like styled it and stuff here. So now you can see we have reduced style. So this is style header. They now come and style this header like separately. You just if they are all the same class of cards basically, like the same cards you want to create. You just have minimal styling. And how to use BM methodology in SCSS is as follows. All right. So let me come to my styles of CSS. And then for card, right? So inside card, we want to style our header. So now you can see, so this is where nesting comes in handy for SCSS. Another place where nesting comes in handy. So this is card header, but then we already have card here. The simple way to use is just to use ampersand, then that's and then underscore header, right? So if you come here, you can see that. Let me just write font size 20 pixel. Let's see, 20 pixel. If I come to my styles.css, you can see it is written as card underscore header, right? So this is an example. And then we also have a style for the body. Reference for the body, we want underscore body, right? So we also want a font size of I did not call this card body. I called the card body. Font size 2. Oh, yes, I want 60 pixel and I want this to be 30 pixel. Alright. For the highlight, I'm using this example here. You can see how I use it. Since I've already written cards. Wait, I'm coming the highlight. I've already written cards, right? All I have to do is just to nest it in the card, but then use I say highlight. Get this. I don't even have what to even say that way. But they want this one to have a background color of let's say yellow, just as we have. If we go back to our work, you can see this. So they both now have the same style. Type. You can see they both now have the same styling, but at the same time, uh, how will I put it? They're still different. But like, how am I going to say this now, right? So as you can see, if we're going to write this normally now, let's say, let me just use like the normal way to write it. If I was going to write this normally, I can say card. Here I will say header. I can say body. Here I can call the card another name. I can still name it card if I want. I can see, I will give it another class, I give it another body, and then I will style all of them separately. Meanwhile, I kind of want them to still have the same. I want them, let's say the card is horizontal and stuff like that. So this is a good way to style it, like clean your have a clean code and stuff like that. So since we are getting it's almost 6, I will drop the sources for you to understand the PM methodology as best as possible. All right. So far so good. Is there any question regarding this? Is there any question? So nobody has any questions. So
We
we
would
all
read
understand.
document. Yeah, we are going to read documentations and the resources to get more acquainted with the concepts. I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's a very nice concept. It helps you to write clean code, shorter code, more readable code, and more actually scalable, world class, name it. It's a nice concept. And it's also good when you work hand in hand. It works like very nicely hand in hand with SCSS. So documentations have been dropped. I don't know if that has been dropped yet because set it to the sub mentors or will be dropped immediately after this class. So you can start reading on it to understand it and everything. So does anybody have any question or conclusion or anything?
Mine is just a comment. We
All
really
right.
appreciate you for the efforts you've put to make us understand this. Actually, although we don't have perfect understanding, but with the knowledge from the little we've learned, I know we'll build on it and then make it better.
Thank
You are
you.
really resourceful. We really appreciate your efforts, and then
Thank you so
we'll
much.
do our best not to let you down too. So we'll go and learn more. Yeah.
Yeah. Like SCSS for me is just perfect. So I really like SCSS so much that I take my time to talk about it, as much as possible. Like by the time this poll was going on and they were asking what do you use, what do you recommend for style, that this was the only one that voted SPSS there. A lot of people don't like it because they feel like it is not easy to learn. Even when I was learning, it was not easy, but for some reason I just wanted to see the end of it. For example, Yunus. Me and Yunus used to fight because Yunus likes Tailwind and I don't like it. Yeah, so you always have that argument, right? So yeah, so that's that. So please, it feels like it is difficult to understand, but once you understand it, if you check some of the complex, because code pen, right? If you have explored code pen and how code pen works, you can see that code pen has things that other people have done. So you can go and read on it and understand. You see sometimes some of the complex things they do, you can see that SCSS. You get it is SCSS. SCSS is power. The SCSS is powerful. It adds functionality to your CSS and stuff like that. So it's a very very nice tough to learn, and I hope you all understand it and you will use it in your work after this whole session. All right. So in the next class, we'll be building, as I always do. If I teach the theory in the first class, I'll teach the practical in the second class, basically. All right. So hopefully next class we'll be able to use BM methodology and SCSS principles to build a very nice project. I'll make it as visually appealing as possible, as I always do. All right. So thank you guys for joining in today. Thank you so much, irrespective of the national grid, whatever. We're all able to join in. We are very, very grateful for the turnout. All right. Do have a nice day and enjoy the rest of your week till we meet again. Bye. Okay, let me stop this recording.